It's been gone for so long, I've got
Hi. I'm Councillor Sarah Conway. I wasn't planning to speak. I was elected in May, so I'm a first-time councillor. Thank you very much for organising this evening. I think it's really good to hear all the different voices and views and some of the details. What I submitted a tiny bit of evidence about was I think it's great that we're having this conversation on all the issues that are being touched on. What has concerned me through the whole discussions on Capita is how we reach our residents on these issues and how we communicate what's been going on that is outrageous to people on the doorsteps. And I would really welcome seeing a couple of things. One is a real focus on it being the Conservatives' mess, that yes, we need to kick out Capita, but it is a very badly run Tory council that has totally mismanaged this, and that needs to be got across. I think also hearing about the sort of state of the cemeteries, I know because I cover libraries as part of my role, I know what's going on there, that we need actual pictures and videos and things that we can very easily communicate to our residents. I think is really important. And I wouldn't mind, I don't know if there's scope to do it or not, but almost having like a sort of people's story of what's been going on with Capita. There are loads and loads of stories out there. I'd be really interested in knowing which wards they're in, which age groups, how long this has been going on, and actually really telling the story of this, I think is absolutely essential, particularly to build up Labour again locally for the next elections, and for people to understand what local government is actually about, and connecting with John and the party, why it matters so much to have proper funding in local government, what we're actually meant to be delivering locally, and where the Tories are so despicably failing. So that was it, really. That was
Thank you.
So I'm a resident of Barnet, live in Finchley in Squires Lane. I also work for the council, Barnet Council and Barnet Homes from 1999 to October 2015. During the time from 2006 until 2015, I worked for adult social care, adult social services in Barnet. During this time, Capita took over the contracts covering the IT services and pensions. I've got a lot of anecdotal evidence from colleagues and friends to say that members of staff who had pensions from Barnet, which were transferred over to Capita when they took over, weren't transferred over correctly, and it ended up with them having to phone up and make lots of inquiries to sort it out. When I left Barnet Council to take up a post in Brent Council in adult social care in November 2015, I also had a problem with my pension not being transferred over despite having continuous service in local government. This problem only became apparent once I'd been working for Brent for over a year or so, when I was sent a leaflet about my pension update in April 2016, which it appeared to show that Capita thought I was still working for Barnet. After making inquiries with Brent, I can attach emails as evidence, I was advised that my pension was never transferred over, so it was a bit of a rush to try and get it sorted out within the time scale. As an employee of Barnet, having worked for the Barnet Council and then for Barnet Council when there was Capita outsourced, apart from the moral problems associated with having a two-tier service, which was very, very obvious while I was working there, I also can confirm that there was a lot of problems with the IT service during that time. I don't have specific details, but during that time I was given several different tablets when they ordered computer tablets in bulk. They only lasted for a couple of months, then kept breaking. I must have had about 4 or 5 tablets in all. I also remember them bringing in the new the software, I think it was the Mosaic system at the time, which took, there was a lot of teething problems, and that was just about the time when I was leaving. So apart from the problems that I could see, because I was actually in, one of my tasks was to do consultation with the public about the social care, adult social care service. So obviously I heard some of the problems people were having with freedom passes and some of the problems which have been outlined already by colleagues. So, but these are specific problems I had as an employee.
Joe, you're speaking to Jenny Brown, is that right?
No, Jenny's not here, so...
So Joe,
we-
don't
yeah.
Good evening, Joel Benjamin. I'm a researcher with an organisation called Research for Action. So my background is I'm a former town planner, and we've been sort of researching and auditing the finances of councils around the country, primarily Newham, but also looked at other London boroughs, including Barnet and Haringey. So, I mean, first I'd like to talk about how CIPFA was created, how Capita was created. So, Capita was formed in 1984 as a commercial spin-out from the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy. This is a body which sets financial and audit policy for the entire public sector. So they have a role setting policy, enforcing standards, this kind of thing. They also receive 5% of their revenue from commercial sponsorships from companies like Capita. So they're influenced significantly by private sector companies in terms of how the public sector operates. So just keep this in mind. Capita's early outsourcing deals were in local government, so you had people like Eric Pickles involved in Bradford Council. I would encourage you to go away and read the Pickles papers on the 1 in 12 Club, talking about how those contracts were, I'd say, fraudulently forced through the local council. And from these kind of early waste and outsourcing contracts, Capita moved into IT and particularly into finance, which is where they had this expertise based on their creation from CIPFA. Bearing in mind these people were primarily public sector auditors. From those origins, they then grew to advise 250 local authorities around the UK on how to structure their finances by the time the financial crisis rolled around in 2008. And a lot of you will recall those town councils lost about £1 billion on static banks when they collapsed. Barnet was one of them, lost £27 million. Frozen in Iceland, and around half those councils were actually advised on their finances by Capita, an oversized role in the Icelandic banking crisis and encouraging local authorities to basically speculate to invest their money overseas regardless of the risk. Where am I going with this? So basically one of the points I want to make is given Capita is an outsourcing company, you can draw the logical conclusion that the worse the council finances become, the more mistakes they make, the better that is for the outsourcing functions. Because outsourcing was being spun as a way to save money over time. So I wouldn't say Capita was incompetent in the way they were structuring the council finances. I would say it was far, far worse than that. I've seen documents where Capita was basically running the council treasury function arm's length. So they weren't just advising, they were basically instructing step by step council finance officers who were supposed to be completely removed from Capita how to borrow, how to invest, when to borrow, at what rate, through which brokers, and it just happened, coincidentally, that by sending them to particular brokers, they happened to be the brokers who were paying Capita enormous kickbacks. So every time the council borrowed from a bank rather than from government, they were getting a massive slice of about £25,000 in commission. On the other side of the deal, the banks were paying the multiples of that amount. So Capita and other companies in the space were making millions and millions of pounds in under-the-table commission payments right throughout the 2000s and the lead up to the crash. So councils around the country ended up borrowing 1,000 of these loans from banks. They took out about £15 billion in debt, and those loans are now going to cost about double that, £30 billion to repay. Barnet has 53 million of these particular type of loans. They're called Lobo loans, and they've taken them out with European banks called Dexia and Deptford. Every 6 months, the banks can, if they choose to, increase the rates on these loans. So currently they're paying 4.6%, but if in March we have a hard Brexit, there's nothing to stop these banks saying, okay, well, you're now increased risk, we want you to pay 6%. So obviously this is introducing enormous risk for these council balance sheets, and a lot of that risk is down to the fact they receive fraudulent advice from these outsourcing companies like Capita, who were there to feather their own nest, not to further the public interest. And I think this brings us quite nicely to the outsourcing project in One Barnet. So Capita has colonised local government finance departments right around the country. As I said, it's sort of run them sort of arm's length. But I guess one of the questions I have is where were the auditors when these sorts of things were going on? So I believe the person who conducted the audit of the recent fraud investigation at Barnet Council was a guy by the name of Paul Dossett, who's the Grant Thornton audit lead. He also audits Kent County Council. Now, Paul Dossett's background, he used to advise on PFI contracts at KPMG. So here's a guy selling PFI contracts to the public sector, now going around running fraud investigations and auditing these firms, and okay, he might provide a reasonable response to somewhere like Capita where the fraud is all too clear to see. I've seen dozens of reports from these sort of auditors all around the country, other councils, clear fraud, clear abuse of position, and the auditors refuse to refer it to the courts. So we have a systemic failure in local government audit. I would agree with this gentleman here that the closure of the Audit Commission was an enormous failure. Again, that was something driven through by Eric Pickles and the audit firms lobbying for this stuff. So basically what I would say is we have a vacuum of accountability at the local level. It's not just in Barnet, it's national. And my concern is within the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to see multiple other councils going bankrupt. And my concern there is that the solution is going to be let's just outsource a lot. Let's sell it off. It's already happening in public land. I believe it's happened in Barnet as well. And so I think the solution to this, in terms of how we kick out Capita, what we haven't seen is public authorities actually taking litigation and prosecuting these firms for the litany of frauds they've committed, because actually Capita's lifeblood is public sector contracts. They can't exist unless they're winning more and more contracts. And actually, no company can bid for public contracts if they're being prosecuted for fraud. So the question is, why aren't we going after them? Why aren't our public sector bodies acting in the public interest and trying to prosecute these firms? And so I agree, let's pick out Capita, but I think we need to really talk about access to justice and the use of law at local authorities, and we need to see more local authorities trying to pursue these companies where clear wrongdoing exists. And I'll just say one final point. When the UK brought in the Bribery Act in 2010, there was some consultation. Capita actually submitted to the Ministry of Justice and complained about the fact that there might be consequences in terms of payment, facilitation payments and the like. That, for me, just tells you everything about these companies' business models.
Thank you. And can I call up on John Burgess? Some of you may know.
This is his room anyway.
John is going to conclude the meeting by talking about next steps.
Okay, first of all, I just want to thank you all for getting down to this little building here. It's a bit plush, isn't it, really? But I just thought it would be an appropriate place for us to begin the inquiry into Capita, because I've got a feeling, guys, that we've got a long, hard struggle ahead in terms of kicking out Capita straight into the camera there. See that? And I mean it, that we're coming for you, Capita. So thanks everybody, thanks John for facilitating the room booking, so I'll fire you up an email for the rest of them. We are clearly not going to get through all the people that wanted to submit evidence, so we are going to, and I've talked to Ross here from Lady Councillor about we need to have an inquiry in Barnet itself. And actually, if we could do it, I'll talk to Barnet Labour Party, wouldn't it be good if we could do the inquiry in the Endon Town Hall and book a committee room? Wouldn't that be wonderful? So is everybody up for that, yeah? I see the foundations are starting to fall down. Quickly, just briefly, in a meeting today I was with managers about the outsourcing and stuff, and I had to apologise. I said, I know it's personal, I said, but it is for me. Because I knew a lot of the people who got made redundant. Because you've got to remember, this Capita takeover was very different to in Southampton and Birmingham, because they just came in. In Barnet, they came in, bust it up, and just scattered the job. So no wonder it's even worse for you to access services, because there are people, and we can't track it, and it is personal for me because the people who get made redundant. And the existing staff, can I say, and I'll look into camera again, staff working for Capita in Barnet are crying out to come back. They are really, they've got a story to tell, and if there was a way for people to be able to be protected to tell the story, I think once that story was told, there'd be no way for us to allow Capita to continue to run the services. Let's be honest, there probably wouldn't be having this sort of meeting if there hadn't been a fraud. So in a funny sort of way, the fraud brought home the real reality. It meant somebody had to go in and do what we've been crying out for, a forensic audit, but they only went in a little bit. And if you do read the grant form bit, even though it's not in the redacted, you can see the scale of the breaches of both of the contracts. And for me, it is just inconceivable that Barnet Council could not want to get it back straight away. So recommendations, because we're running out of time. So Teresa will tell me if I don't get this right. So what we really do need, we got past 1,000, but that's not many. We need to kick around that petition. We really need to push it. There's more than 1,000 residents who want to sign it. We've got to tell the story. So we need to kick that around. The second action for residents in Barnet, and working with the Barnet Labour Party as well and the bloggers, we have to target the audit committee meeting on the 22nd of November, Thursday the 22nd. Either you, as a resident, you can ask questions, you have the right to speak, but at that meeting is where we're going to be talking about the Grant Thornton report. And we've not had a real chance to do that, and that links to the decision making that's going on, and we really have to. So we are coming for you on the 22nd of November. Obviously, the 11th of December is decision making time. The 11th of December is when they're going to have the business case, so we'll be a lobby of that. And again, I'm sure John and the bloggers will be asking questions. What we really need is also some residents want to step up, and I think councillors have a right to ask a question. We've got to maximise the space and time of these committees in order to tell your story and our story as a workforce about what's going on. And then just before Christmas, the 18th of December, we've got the full council where, you know, I don't know what sort of meeting that will be, but I think this time, it's been a while I've been to a full council, but I think we should dress up like, last time I was dressed up as Father Christmas with about 6 or 7 of us in 2014. Action activity, stalls across Barnet. The only way we can reach people is through people power. So Teresa's got leaflets and flyers, high qualities. If we can do, we're doing some stalls, we can do it cross-party, working with the Labour Party, anywhere. We've got the information, we need to coordinate across the whole borough. So stalls, leaflets, we're doing the inquiry. I think I've got everything. Oh, sorry, I've missed the most important thing. We need to lobby the Tory councillors on the Policy and Resources Committee. And tomorrow, our friend Dan Thomas, do you want to explain?
We have here a calendar of all the Policy and Resources Committee Tory councillors November and December. As it happens, Daniel Thomas's surgery is tomorrow between 1 and 2, and he sits in the old Margaret Thatcher office on Ballard's Lane, 212. If anyone here is able to come tomorrow to lobby Daniel Thomas, please see me, and if anyone is able and willing to lobby any other councillors, we don't have time to do it now, but I'll wait outside. And I also have the rota of the street stalls, so people can just put their names in. And lastly, everyone please make sure you put your names and contact details clearly on the signing entry so we can get in touch. Oh, and the evidence, we need the evidence.
Sorry, and all the people who've given us evidence haven't heard yet. We will be putting that up on websites and stuff like that. Yeah, obviously people have got permission for us to do that, the ones I've got who couldn't make it today. And we will need to then start using our networks and start talking to people. Good luck, everybody, and thank you very much. That's me over with. Thank you.
The address of Barnet Alliance Public Services is on this leaflet, so take a leaflet and go from the address.
I've got one thing to say, but I think people can help me say it. So, you know, there's a prompt, call, respond. Say hey. Hey. Say ho.
Oh.
Capita has got to go. Say hey.
Hey.
Say ho.
Capita has got to go. Say hey.
Hey. Say ho.
Capita has got to go. Say hey.
Say ho.
Capita has got to go.
Has everyone signed the petition?
Has everybody signed? Everybody needs to sign the petition. Okay?
Yeah.